What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Thomas Dolby from his 1988 album Aliens Ate My Buick. And the next tune in the playlist is Pulp Culture, which I enjoy. Obviously, there's a bit of a play on words from pop culture, but with a seedier, edgier connotation, meaning I think this is derived from Pulp Fiction, not the Tarantino movie, but the genre of literature, which I think is like the very end of the 19th century up through the middle of the 20th century. And the designation was such that I think it refers to material which was meant to appeal to your adult interest, even an exploitative quality, and thus to excite the prurient interest, but not enough to be fully labeled, pornography or something that was explicit. So yes, the idea of having a lurid type of quality, but one which was still just about within the publicly acceptable guidelines of, what you could sell. So in that regard, extrapolating pulp to the larger culture, it's maybe the idea that beyond pop culture, or maybe even the real identity of pop culture, is a culture which celebrates that which is a bit outside the standard deviations of conformity, and whether that is being seen as positive, negative, or a more nuanced depiction remains to be seen. But yes, I was amused when I looked at the title because I like the play on words, and it speaks to maybe socio-cultural commentary, and I do wonder, again, like specifically in an 80s context, of course, but maybe with an homage to, again, the idea of Pulp Fiction, which was, as I said, I think like very late 19th century up through like the 1950s. So let's give it a listen and see what I can pick up on a first hearing. This is Thomas Dolby. The track is Pulp Culture, and it's from his 1988 album Aliens Ate My Buick.
It's called Pulp, P-U-L-P, and it is fighting the minds of our young people today.
much to say here. I'll try to keep this all in my frontal brain here. But okay, so first of all, I do think this is, in a way, a critique, and yet also it's a critique through, like, satire, and there's part of the lyrics, like, especially, that part where it sounded essentially like we're talking about sexual encounters and the places and positions where they may take place, but that it's, like, expressing the very thing that I think it's a critique about. I think it is also knocking television and the, again, appeal to the lurid, but also the commercial nature of it. I think it is a shot specifically at Hollywood and LA, which, look, I come from Southern California and I spent many exciting nights in and around LA, especially in the 90s, going to rave parties, which, incidentally, if you've been on the 101 freeway, then yes, I understand the idea that it may seem like there's more cars than actual people, but also if you spent time, up on Melrose or Vermont and, going to record shops and clothing stores where, they had a lot of the styles that were worn by rave kids at the time, there was a lot of people and culture there. Also, an interesting commentary on culture is that it grows between your ears, which is, of course, true, right? Like, memes, in not like the internet sense of memes, but a more, like, anthropological or, sort of academic understanding of memes, in the way that it's like an idea, and it can be passed from one brain to another, and it can then be sort of contagious, the way that certain idea types will then proliferate and spread and become viral, and then themselves be altered or shaped by local and individual circumstances. So, yeah, the idea that culture does grow between the ears is, I think, a profound and succinct articulation of the way that culture in general and cultural forms more narrowly, they have their homes in people's gray matter. That is the essence of where they are. Now, of course, they get expressed and manifested in movies and posters and other forms of art, even behavior, dance, like kinetic movement and beyond. But yeah, I think that was a really profound point. But okay, again, I think he's talking about Hollywood and maybe the crass way that art is manifested there. And maybe, again, there's a knock on Hollywood relative to, say, independent or art house film studios and productions. I do think it's talking about television as being this sort of, and what was it, like the poison town or something like that, which, again, as someone who does enjoy the better aspects of LA, it feels harsh, but I get it. It's like, Hollywood and the sort of hyper commercialism, the glitzy, like that's where movie stars live and so on. It's an easy target, and I do understand that. But yes, the idea of television as poison, which again, there's a lot of punk bands I listen to who make similar points about the sort of like dumbing down or corrosive quality of like commercial and indeed exploitative or pulp entertainment that comes through that little small screen. So I think there's some aspect of that here. I do enjoy the funky sound of the track, and I notice, again, the bass just has this real, like, funky groove to it, which seems like a pretty regular hallmark of Dolby's material across multiple albums. So yeah, the bass really stood out to me. There's some elements that kind of have a synth funk feel overall. So it's like you can hear keyboards, you can hear sounds that, have kind of a synth pop vibe, but very much in a like funky territory. Again, it sounded like a synth pop track, but with a bit of like Prince flavor or something. Though I shouldn't even make that comparison because, as I said, it feels like this is one of the mainstays of Dolby's catalog, or at least of his catalog that I've heard up to this point. But yeah, I enjoy his vocals. There's nothing like crazy happening there, but they're in a good place that fits the vibe of the song overall. So, yes, definitely one that I was intrigued by from moment one. I do think the idea of the lurid, the exploitative, the, sort of appealing to the prurient interest, which, again, there was, like, on the table, like, what was it, like, on the floor against the wall. It feels like we are talking about sexual scenarios, And again, in that regard, it's like the song kind of is what it's addressing and or critiquing. So there's a bit of cleverness there, I think. Either way, a really compelling tune. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.